And I think what's so amazing that you just mentioned something that about, you don't really have to, go on a battle and like change millions of life. You can just concentrate on your life, making it better. And in that, process, you eventually do help impact positively
Mm.
impact other people, because only once you are happy, satisfied and content within yourself, enjoying what you're really doing, you can actually help and inspire other people. And I think that's what has happened in your case, if I see so.
Yeah, no,
And that,
that's true.
yeah, and that brings me to the two amazing journey that you are taking here in Australia. First one is Stella Startups. I would really like
Mm.
to know about how your experience in taking your first steps towards Stella Startup is, and also a little bit about overnight success.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess, we kind of like I was in Hong Kong, and then I lived in Melbourne for about 4 years, and I was working in advertising agencies there. I thought that I wanted to work in advertising as like my long-term career. And I certainly like really enjoyed my time working in advertising. Super creative. You get to work on lots of different businesses. But I really kind of felt the need to get my hands dirty inside a business. Like, when you're working in an advertising agency, particularly for like larger businesses or like government businesses, naturally there's an element of kind of being at a bit of an arm's length. The internal team is the one who kind of like is in the detail, whereas the agency kind of just comes in, does their job, and then usually kind of leaves the
Yeah.
rest of the team to it. So I really felt that pull to kind of work in the startup space. So I ended up getting a job at a climate tech company, Trace. And I was their second employee and their marketing lead. And I was there for a bit over a year. And again, yeah, really enjoyed my time there, like learned so much. And I think it was a true early stage startup experience in every sense of the word, in terms of like, the business changed a lot while I was there, which was kind of like challenging but exciting at the same time. The team grew a lot while I was there, which again, like, it comes with all the challenges, and but is also like really amazing to see. And yeah, and then I kind of got to that was towards the end of last year that I decided that it was kind of time to move on from that role for various different reasons. Like I had actually reached a bit of a point of burnout personally, not necessarily because of that company, but just because of kind of various different things that had collided in my life at that time. And so, I decided just to take a step back. We're talking about take your first step forward, but at that time I felt the need to take a step back
That's
and
a very
reassess.
that's definitely a very important process, and we are happy that you're sharing that
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah. So I took a step back, and I was like, what do I want to do? I kind of was like, do I want to stay even in marketing? I'm not sure whether I feel like, this is the skill set that I want to, keep exploring. Do I want to do something completely different? So I genuinely just took some time out. I did a lot of creative stuff. I did a woodworking course. I did stuff with I was building like random bits of furniture and painting and things like that. For a little while. And but then I guess in that time I was still connected with people that I'd met through a program called the Media Fellowship, run by Startmate earlier that year. And one of the people that I met during that program was Will Richards, who had started Overnight Success, the newsletter. So so I met Will through that process, and we kind of stayed chatting throughout the year. So he'd kept writing Overnight Success. He'd written about 20, 25 editions. By the time I said to him, hey, like I actually had some free time, and like I'm kind of interested in just working on some creative projects. Happy to help out with the newsletter if you need some help. And he was like super happy to have my help, because he's trying to juggle that and a full-time job. So I initially came on board as a kind of editor, and then started writing a bit more. And then I said, like it would be really good if you were writing to more than like a few hundred people, because it's a lot of effort, like to write to a small audience. And he really welcomed my advice and support from like a growth perspective. So since then, kind of the rest is history, and we've kind of been working together since. And now I'm like officially a co-founder and kind of have my own real role in that business, which is really great. And I love working on Overnight Success, because it's a really great way to kind of open doors in the startup ecosystem and have really authentic, genuine conversations with people, because we're not doing it primarily from a like a commercial standpoint. The newsletter, was built out of Will wanting to learn about startup ecosystem. I joined because I wanted to keep learning and talking to people in the startup ecosystem, and it's continued kind of with that as the primary kind of drive. We are trying to find ways that maybe we can, get paid for our time so that we can keep the newsletter being really sustainable and balance it with our, all of our other kind of demands on our life and our other work. But but our primary drive really is still to kind of support the startup ecosystem and just to really feel like we're actually contributing to it. So that's so that's overnight success, and we've got some really exciting things on the cards. I think over the next 6 months that we're looking at working on. So that's really cool. So everyone keep an eye on what we're doing there. We just launched a new website, which is overnightsuccess.vc. So make sure you have a look at that and subscribe while you're there if you're not already. So that's overnight success. And then Stellar Startups is kind of my newest venture. It is a marketing support service for early stage startups, and specifically designed with early stage startups in mind. And that came out of, I think, partly my experience working at Trace. It was an early stage startup, and I was the only marketing person there for a long time, or only marketing, person with a marketing background there for a long time. And you can only do so much as one person. And you can also only do so much with the resources you have as an early stage startup. Like, you've got limited funding, if any funding in some cases. But at the same time, it's this kind of chicken and egg situation. You have no money to grow, or very limited money and resources to grow. But in order to, reach the next milestone, whether that's a funding milestone or kind of showing traction with customer acquisition, you need to do marketing. So you have money to pay for marketing, but you need to do marketing to grow. So it's this constant unfortunate hamster wheel that a lot of founders find themselves in. And it's quite frustrating for me, as somebody who has those skills, to, see people make quite simple mistakes or not be able to just do quite simple things with their marketing when it could really accelerate their business. So the idea for Stellar Startups kind of came off the back of an old colleague of mine, Bridget, who's now my business partner in Stellar, reaching out to me towards the end of last year. And we'd worked together in advertising at an agency called the Shannon Company before. And she was a copywriter, and she's like a generalist marketer, ex-journo. And she had decided that she wanted to, stop being just a freelancer and kind of expand her services beyond just what she can offer, and think about how she can help people in a broader way. And so she reached out to me and she said, "Do you want to start an agency together?" And I was like, I came out of advertising and I went, I don't know if I want to do that again. Agencies are, notoriously hard to work in, just because of the nature of the industry. But we started talking, and I realized that we had that same we experienced the same problems when it comes to early stage startups not having access to marketing support at a really affordable and accessible price point, and also not getting support that's broad enough to help them lay the really essential foundations that they need to do any kind of marketing activity. Like, if you're an early stage startup, often the advice you get is you need to do paid ads, or you need to do SEO, or you need to do PR. And often that's really well-intentioned advice. And maybe sometimes it's very accurate advice that you do, sometimes PR can be really helpful. SEO is fantastic. Paid ads can do wonders for some businesses. But if somebody hears that advice and doesn't know much about the broad remit of things you can do with marketing, and also kind of all the trade-offs that come with choosing different channels and things like that, they might just go headfirst down into one real specialist avenue and find maybe a specialist marketer or a specialist agency to help them. And again, those people might be really fantastic at what they do, but they might that channel might not be right for that business, or that business might not be ready to approach that tactic, or they might not have really clarified who are we trying to serve or talk to, what is our messaging, how do we craft that messaging for the different audiences we're talking to. And then they go headfirst down the strategy, and they try paid ads, they try SEO, they try PR, whatever, but because they haven't got those foundations in place and nobody's helped them with those, or they haven't got a really solid strategy in place, they just dive headfirst and crash. So because they didn't get the foundations right. And if you try to find people to help you with that, usually it ends up being like an in-house person is often a good choice for that. But again, early stage startups don't often have the resources to bring in somebody in-house full time. Or maybe it's like a very senior advisor who's only got a limited amount of time to spend with you, or at a very expensive hourly rate. So we wanted to kind of figure out, well, what's the solution there? How can we provide this generalist marketing advice, provide people with the foundations they need before they jump into specialist tactics,
Yeah.
and kind of get them ready to go down those specialist tactic paths, but after we've worked with them. So